One of the most shocking, unfortunate events in aviation history occurred on September 16, 2011 in Reno, United States. At an air racing show, a highly modified North American P-51 500 Mustang unexpectedly took a sharp turn to the ground and directly hit the audience watching the event. This calamity resulted in an exorbitant number of injured and, of course, deceased. The most impressive thing is not so much the number of casualties, but rather the fact that the event was recorded from multiple angles, second by second, excellently documenting everything that happened. In this video, we will analyze these footages, study the background that led to this tragedy, and of course, we will delve much deeper than traditional media. So get comfortable, I'm Kevin Aguilar, and this is Guns Club. The Reno air races are air races that have been held annually since 1964. They have international prestige, attracting enthusiasts, pilots, and fans from all over the planet. There we can see the best aircraft from World War II compete at full speed. This competition is highly controversial and has been trying to be extremely regulated or canceled for decades. Since the competing aircraft can reach 800 kilometers per hour, they can reach such speed because they are extremely modified with very modern features. So the race is won by the aircraft whose pilots are more experienced and have the best modifications. Precisely, this eagerness to have the most modified aircraft has caused multiple minor accidents that almost end in a major tragedy. For example, on September 18, 1970, the plane Miss Candace crashed into the runway while attempting an emergency landing due to an engine failure. The pilot came out completely unscathed, only with a few scrapes and bruises. In 1998, another incident occurred again. Another modified P-51 Mustang, the Voodoo Chile, lost a left compensating fin during a maneuver. The pilot, Bob Hurricane Hanna, reported that the plane pitched, subjecting him to more than 10 Gs and leaving him completely unconscious. When he regained consciousness, the plane was ascending and was at 2,700 meters, shortly after he managed to land without problems. Interestingly, the Voodoo piloted by Bob Hurricane would be a direct witness to the future event, which we will narrate in depth today. In '99, another incident would occur again, this time causing a fatality. Another highly modified P-51. He was racing when his pilot, Gary Levitz, experienced extreme vibrations in the rudder. All of this caused the plane's fuselage to directly shatter in the air, causing the pilot's fatality. As we mentioned, all these incidents involved these events in a lot of controversy. However, these continued to be held as normal, despite the repeated calamities that befell these dangerous races. After all, those in danger were the pilots, weren't they? The 16th of September 2011 marked the 47th Reno air race. Everything seemed to be going as usual. The sky was clear, the noise of the engines was deafening. The characteristic excitement was palpable in the air. You could feel the joy of the people. Lots of beer, food, everything was fantastic. Our protagonist today, the pilot Jimmy Leggert, 74 years old, he flew a P-51 500 Mustang called the Galloping Gosh, or the Galloping Horse. As you can guess, it was not just any aircraft. It had been extremely modified to increase its speed and maneuverability, removing more than 300 kilos of weight and modifying its wings, making them shorter, and its control system and engine. Every kilogram less in horsepower counts in these demanding air battles. But what no one knew was that these modifications were about to trigger the third largest disaster in airshow history. The planes took off at 4:20 p.m., and minutes later the race was proceeding completely normally. As the planes accelerated into the first straight, he fell back, planning to use his usual strategy of overtaking everyone from behind. By the second lap, the strategy seemed to be paying off as he began to move up positions. By the third lap of the 6-lap race, he had already moved up to third place, right behind Voodoo. At that moment, Ligouard hit Voodoo's wake, sharply turning to the left. At that precise moment, the left compensating fin started failing. The massive movement caused by the plane's instability as the compensating fin failed made the plane ascend so quickly that it reached a dizzying force. of 17.3 Gs, well above human tolerance. Leeward's blood flowed quickly from his brain, immediately rendering him unconscious. Our protagonist was now pushing the controls unconscious. The left elevator trim tab completely detached, and the plane began a sharp downward and rightward tilt, heading straight for the spectators. These were in a seating area and barely had time to dock, as the plane was going approximately 800 kilometers per hour. Interestingly, the higher-ranking officers were able to see what was happening and alerted people a few seconds earlier, but there was nothing more to be done. This ended up impacting directly on the attendees. The impact was so strong that only a huge explosion was seen. Suddenly, a bunch of junk, metal parts, and human parts flew everywhere. The scene was shocking. Screams of pain and crying took over the environment. There were people with missing limbs running for their lives. There were a staggering 11 fatalities, including pilot Jimmy Leeward, and at least another 69 people were injured, most of them seriously. Firefighters and paramedics rushed to the area, noticing a strange smell in the air, according to the paramedics. A combination of fuel, beer mixed with a smell of burnt flesh. Investigation started almost immediately, as the National Transportation Safety Board was already on the scene. Really, for the authorities, detecting what happened was extremely simple. The aircraft was recorded second by second throughout the race, and they themselves had witnessed the event. As we said seconds before the tragedy, it was seen how the left compensating fin directly detached, causing all this calamity. So the investigators looked into the origin of the plane to detect why it detached. The Galloping Ghost had been manufactured in '44 for the Air Force, but it did not fight in World War II and was sold to private individuals. It passed through several hands until in '83 it was acquired by Jimmy Leeward. He competed with it for several years until a series of engine failures and a forced landing forced him to store it long-term in '89. He didn't decide to race with it again until 2007. He fitted it with a new Rolls-Royce Merlin 12 engine with a new advanced cooling system. He built a new custom cockpit. But the modification that caught the attention of the researchers was that of the entire rear control system. He inserted modern electrical systems to make them more sensitive and precise, and more importantly, he modified several details. From the left elevator fin, he joined the two control surfaces. Through these joined hinges, a screw fixed with a lock nut connected each hinge of the centering fin. This was a mechanical oddity that gave him a lot of control, but would this modification cause his demise? The lock nuts had not been changed. Since '85, they were still painted yellow, and the plane was painted in '85 and went through several colors. Flying in these races is extremely demanding for the pilots, and even more so for the planes. The stress of flying in a high-demand race caused superior wear on these old modifications, which had long since exceeded their useful life. During the flight, this structure simply gave way, causing the loss of control and the consequent fall to the ground. Apparently, the negligence that caused all this was only the fault of Leeward and his team. The Reno Larara Air Racing Association required pilots to report any major modifications before the plane's participation in the race. But apparently, Leeward had only reported the custom engine cooling system, not the changes in the structure or the flight controls. Larara required 3 hours and 3 takeoffs and landings for planes that had extensive modifications. But Leeward simply didn't report that he had made modifications, so everything literally was his fault. Larara made many changes so that people would not be afraid to return to the races. She moved the spectator area 300 meters from the track before they were just 200 meters. In addition, she asked the pilots to give exhaustive tests to obtain permission to fly in the races. And today, these races are still held, despite there having been 13 pilot deaths throughout history, not counting those fallen in this event. If you like this video, you'll probably want to know about the Scanably tragedy. Thank you so much for this video and see you in the next one. Goodbye.